Epic Larry Brock hammers down on Chief Bell, citing many laws could have been used in Ottawa during the protest. Why weren't they utilized before the Emergency Act invocation? Here's the clip.
Mr. Brock, who will have 5 minutes, sir. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the witnesses for your presence today and your testimony. Largely, my questions will be directed towards Interim Chief Bell. Interim Chief Bell, just a little bit of background. We know that there were a number of other similar-based protests around this country. We know there was a border dispute in Alberta, a border dispute in Manitoba, and a border dispute at the Windsor Ambassador Bridge. And you'll agree with me, officer, that those disputes were all resolved, removed, and charges laid without the invocation of the Emergencies Act. Yes or no?
Mr. Chair, I would debate the definition of similar. Border protests in unresidential areas are considerably different than an occupation of what amassed to approximately 20 square blocks in the center of a major municipality within the country, in front of a parliament who had to suspend sitting for a period of time so that the police operations could be undertaken. The characterization of the other three demonstrations and where they were situated, as well as scope and scale, I don't think is comparable to what happened within the streets of Ottawa.
And you'd also agree with me, officer, that before the invocation of the Emergencies Act, and in fact, part of the wording of the statute is that the invocation can only take place where there are no other existing laws in Canada to remove the nuisance or dispute. You'd agree with me in these circumstances, there were a myriad of criminal code charges, Highway Traffic Act charges, City of Ottawa municipal bylaws, as well as several Superior Court orders that could have been utilized by the rank and file of the Ottawa Police Service, but there were no charges laid before the invocation of the Emergencies Act. Do you agree with that, officer, or not?
I do not. And I do not because there was several criminal charges laid in the course of our enforcement through the process of stabilizing, maintaining, and ultimately removing the demonstrators from our streets. The Emergency Act...
Sorry to interrupt. Was that before or after the invocation of the Act?
There were criminal charges laid prior to the invocation of the Emergencies Act.
Okay. And what charges were they? Were they criminal code charges?
Absolutely. There was criminal code charges related to activities surrounding the demonstration.
You mentioned racing dangerously around the city core. Those laws exist under the Highway Traffic Act, and presumably that wasn't simply a report that was generated to the Ottawa Police Services, but your rank and file, hundreds and hundreds of rank and file Ottawa Police Service members were able to witness that dangerous behavior, and yet no charges were laid in relation to that conduct. You'd agree with me?
So as I indicated in my opening, the Emergencies Act was one of the tools that we utilized. What specifically it provided us was the ability to create an exclusionary zone. One of the major issues that we had in trying to manage and maintain was the free flow of people in and out of the demonstration footprint, the red zone as we called it. And,
well, I get that, Chief Bell. Chief Bell, thank you. I've got a limited amount of time. That does not answer my question. My question is, there were a number of Highway Traffic Act infractions and criminal code violations being conducted in the presence of police officers where no charges were laid. What direction did leadership give to the rank and file to turn a blind eye to this illegal behavior that only became necessary in terms of exercising your duty as a police officer after the invocation of the Act?
You've got 15 seconds, Chief.
So there was no direction to disregard criminal activity or Highway Traffic Act activity. In fact, what we have done is gathered information, intelligence, and we continue to do investigations around that very activity you're discussing. What was paramount for us was the safety of the community, the safety of our officers, and the safety of the demonstrators. And on several occasions,
Thank you very much.
Sorry,
I'm sorry for interrupting. It's not the best part of my job, but it's an important part. Okay, now we turn to Mr. Nack.